Yeah, we'll give it a couple minutes for some folks to join.
So guys, Mike, I don't know what you're looking at, but you're frowning. You don't seem to be very happy.
I'll stop editing so we don't mess this up.
All right, we can get started here. Just as a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. It'll be uploaded to YouTube shortly after, and your participation in this meeting is an agreement to abide by the OpenSSF Code of Conduct. Okay, cool. So there's not really much of an agenda right now. I know 1.0 draft has gone out. We have the request for, or it's open for comments. The release candidate. It's open for comments. Beyond that, I know we have some tracking issues across, and I have also a tracking issue within SLSA itself. Let me just go in here. As well, and I believe that's in the notes. If it's not, I'll just post it again. Second. Just for tracking 1.0 support in the various tools. Beyond that, I don't know if anybody else has any updates regarding anything in 1.0. I know, Frederick, I don't know if you were able to create an issue for the NPM CLI.
Sorry, I have not, but continue to bug me and I will make sure it happens.
Yeah, no problem. Also, if anybody else thinks that there's other tools or knows of other tools that are supporting 1.0, supporting SLSA or plan to support SLSA or supporting SLSA and need to support 1.0 or whatever, feel free to add that to, add a tracking issue on that side and so on. Yeah. And yeah, that's about it on that one. Does anybody else know of any other tools that are maybe not on that list that should be on the list?
Wasn't there some effort for PyPy to also support SLSA?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know any of the folks who might be working on that. So I'm not sure who I should be reaching out to yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
Let me put that in there.
don't know either, but that would be another package ecosystem that would seem to make sense to have on that list. I don't know, that I would necessarily put things for which this seems like completely, new, but in this case, I think there is work going on, so maybe we need to figure this out.
Yeah, I can definitely so I know that a few of the folks from Google have been doing some stuff regarding Python support. So I wonder if they might know some folks.
Yeah.
I'll ping them and see.
So Michael, I see Frasca in that issue you mentioned, but Frasca is a solution, right? So it's composed of a bunch of tools. So how you plan to certify that?
So generally it's probably just going to be the Tecton support that gives us the 3.0 stuff. The thing about it though is right, like Tecton chains, at least the way it's set up or architected, it can't support SLSA 3 without Spiffy Spire.
Yeah.
Or some sort of workload thing. And so Fresca, once the Tecton chain stuff goes through, we can immediately support SLSA 3 and the SLSA 1.0 spec and everything else there. So I think it's more just trying to capture like if there's anything else that we would sort of go above and beyond Tecton. But yeah, it's not necessarily like I think it's more just tracking to make sure that once like Tecton chains and anything else that might need to change in order to support all the 1.0 requirements and spec, that Fresca then updates its requirements, its dependencies on Tecton to be updated to the latest version of chains and whatever else. That's really the main one.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks.
By the way, the SLSA Dev website has a Get Started page, which was just updated, and it does point to various tools. I think it would make sense for people to have a look at this in this group and see if, any additional stuff should be in there. It's pretty limited right now. We focused most of the information on freely available tools. There's a table at the end that lists more, especially Google Cloud Build. But the expectation is that, that we could add to this list, and eventually there should be some government conformance certification program set up that will give a more complete list. But for now, anything can be added to that list. we're taking it on, we accept any claims, basically. There's no process to verify. That's why there's a disclaimer that says, hey, there's no,
Yeah.
come and sue OpenSSF if this turns out to be wrong or anything of that nature. But this is trying to help people find their ways to tools that might help them get there.
So, Arno, is it under SLSA charter to have the certification program?
So
right?
it will be eventually. That's the plan.
Oh, okay. Because anyone can come say, okay, this is SLSA, and then or SLSA team need to go certify it. Right?
Yes, that's the problem.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is nothing new in the standard space, right? I mean, we have this problem, and not everybody goes through the trouble of having certification programs that put a little bit of legal framework around those claims. In this case, there has been discussions about doing this for SLSA. There is a proposal that's been floating around. It's not an easy task to put together. You need staff allocated to managing it. You need a legal framework, so it needs to be reviewed by the LF lawyers. I mean, LF is no foreign to doing this. I mean, they have, there's a program for Kubernetes, for instance, that I've been pointing to that can be used as an example, which is within the LF umbrella. So we know if we were to use a framework similar to that, it should be fairly easy to get the LF lawyer happy. But it's still, you still need some kind of resources allocated to managing it, because I know from what's going on the CSCF side and Kubernetes, you have to keep pinging people, and there's a whole process, making sure the claims still stand and so on.
Yeah, and it's also a delicate balance between what the OpenSSF itself takes on versus what the OpenSSF, let's say, certifies like auditors to do, and how do you make sure that that process is also relatively open to as many people, and all that good stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, because I know that there's worry. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I mean, I just think this follows to a discussion, right? We had when we wrote that CNCF reference architecture. Like, we are not saying we are certifying anything. These are guidelines.
Yep.
And it's discretion up to everyone's discretion to determine. We are not certifying anything that this Tecton, if you use this is certified with that reference architecture.
Yeah, and I think it's a delicate balance, because I think also one of the other things that's come up is, some folks are like, actually, I want you to tell me what I should be doing, and including like what tools I should use. But of course, that means like, if you tell people, hey, you should use this tool, it can potentially lead to, obviously, picking winners issues. And, like, you just end up with folks who
That's
will,
right.
Everybody will join a particular meeting, all from a particular company, and just be like, oh yeah, we vote this thing in. Yeah.
Oh, that never happens.
Yeah, of course not. No. Or vice versa, right? Where, somebody comes in with a project and everybody from, other competing interests all vote it down or whatever. It's complicated. And I think the thing that I think is worthwhile with the SLSA stuff is, by having something like a conformance program and making sure that from an audit perspective, whoever can be certified to do an official OpenSSF audit, whether it's the OpenSSF itself or it's the OpenSSF defers to certain companies to be able to do that. That certification process needs to be open, and anybody can join as long as they're obviously operating within good faith and doing all the right things. And then it's still up to the actual like end users to like say, yeah, I support, let's say, like one of the big audit firms over, some random company, or, hey, I don't have the money to hire one of these bigger ones. I have but this other one is still certified by the OpenSSF or whatever. I think that's going to be it's going to be an interesting balance.
Yeah, and it's especially difficult if you cannot have like a test suite that as you can just run and say, yeah, I'm running the test suite and it says I'm compliant, you know, when it becomes a lot more like subjective based
Yeah.
on the fine, you know, analysis, it becomes much harder to enforce any kind of, you know, verification system that makes those claims more verifiable.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when you have stuff like the build service stuff. So I know that like actually one of the interesting tools from Oracle, and once again, this is just like from like one of the researcher, research open source sort of teams over there, has been doing this thing called Macaron, which is a tool that is intended to be like, generate those reports and be able to kind of try and verify, but it still relies on right now, oh, you're running on one of the known good build services like GitHub Actions, right? But even something like Fresca itself, unless it's like a running service of Fresca, you have no way of knowing whether or not somebody's actually running Fresca. There's some obviously, theoretical work around like the ability to prove, yes, you're actually running, like you can remotely attest that somebody is actually running exactly what you expect them to be running from like the software side. But I think that's kind of a much longer term sort of thing. But yeah, the Macaron thing is trying to do some of that, but obviously they're still sort of relying on the build service to say like, hey, we're going to verify that, yes, the claims in here are there and that the, the token or sort of, well, you know what I mean? Like the keyless signing can be traced back to GitHub. And so, it was actually running on GitHub and not somewhere else. But that sort of thing makes more complicated if you're running it internally and you want to say, hey, I trust this build, my internal build service or whatever. Yeah. What else? I don't want to, what else was there though? So I know, I don't want to put Vitsa on the spot, but are you still working on the NPM policy? If you're muted still.
Yeah, I'm just finding the button.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm still working on that, but I'm also working on a lot of other stuff that I haven't been working on in all those years that I worked at Google. So yes, there is a PR number 8, I think, under SLSA framework that is going through approvals, and then I will try to implement something. But yeah, there is years and years of neglect in my other projects that I'm also catching up with. So I'm balancing embarrassment on one side versus embarrassment on the other side. It's,
Yeah, no problem.
but the intent is that that I do an initial version, and then other people can work on it too. It should not be all me by myself, obviously. So yeah, that's my priority at this time.
Cool. Awesome.
Thanks.
All right. Let me actually put that in the notes there for a second once I find. Oh boy, too many tabs.
If you're looking for the link to the pull request, I added it in the chat, Mike.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, cool, awesome. Give me 1 second here. Um, and the only other thing I was going to bring up was one of the things I'm looking to work on, mostly just as a little thing to maybe. Oh, hold on.
I'm not seeing any smoke yet. Oh, there he is.
Sorry about that. One of the cats tried to jump up and knocked over a whole thing of pans. So anyway, I was gonna say, so prepping for the 1.0 thing, one of the things I was gonna try and do is maybe write up a quick library or something like that, whether it's in Q or similar. Because so a few folks, and I think even in this call, have been saying, hey, it's great that there's a salsa verifier and all these salsa verifiers that are verifying like, hey, is it doing all the right things? But there's also just sort of generic like need for a salsa like spec validator of just, are you following, are you actually following is the JSON just, have all the right fields? Are those fields all valid? Like, is that a valid URI, yada, yada. So that stuff like the verifiers and whatever can just sort of use it. And so one of the things I was looking at was, maybe doing something, and I know we've been looking at, we had done some stuff in Q before, but maybe doing something like either in Q or similar that can just, it's like a super simple tool that can, verify it, and then could also be used as a library by some of the verifiers down the line that are, going to be looking at the spec, so that everything can kind of, I mean, obviously people can re-implement it if they want, but, the idea there being that, hey, if they're building out salsa tools that ingest salsa metadata, oh, cool, if I want to verify that it's valid salsa metadata, I can just include this simple library or whatever. And I know this is also related to some of the stuff that some folks are talking about with in Toto and some of the other ones of like could be around some common like a common in Toto library or attestation library, so that folks can sort of verify a lot of those different things. Anyway, just I was gonna quickly write up something maybe this weekend on that. Yeah. Beyond that, does anybody else have any anything else regarding Salsa 1.0 or anything regarding the tooling? Otherwise, we can end a bit early. I guess I was gonna ask Brendan any any updates on any of the stuff coming out of the implementations for the various spec changes to OCI?
You
Like-
want to know if OCI is making progress.
Yeah.
Right now, no. We're trying, but it's slow going right now. That is a very abbreviated version of lots of drama.
All right, cool. So yeah, that's about it here. If anybody has anything else, obviously bring it up now. Otherwise, see y'all next week. And remember to shoot out like messages to anybody who might be interested in providing feedback and all that good stuff on 1.0. All right, cool.
Sounds good.
See y'all next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.